I would like to issue a formal apology to all of my Missouri Tiger fans out there watching this video. I am sorry for my prediction last year because I was dead wrong. I undervalued this team to hell and back, and this is going to turn from a feel-good story from 2023 to expectation in 2024. This team expects to be right back where they were last year, and they expect to compete for a spot in the college football playoff. Can Missouri make a run of the national championship in 2024? Well, you're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today, and welcome to my channel. Welcome to prediction season, where I am predicting all 134 FBS level college football teams in the nation this summer. Guys, it means I'm doing your favorite team. So hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded. And thank you for watching this video. It helps support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine. And if you want to continue to help support what I do here on YouTube, like, comment, share, and do anything else you can do to help me support my channel, because whatever you guys are able to do does really mean a lot to me. But with all of that out of the way, you're here to listen to me talk about Missouri football in 2024. How do we do that, Nate? Well, it really is very simple. We're going to take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the team's defense, and then game by game, we will break down, preview, and predict what the Missouri Tigers have to look forward to on their 2024 football schedule. So with no further delay, let's talk Missouri football in 2024. A couple footnotes before we do truly start. Right at this bar right here, you're going to see stats that the Missouri Tigers were able to put up both offensively and defensively last season, as well as for your viewing pleasure. Right below the team's logo, way down there, I have put the offensive and defensive coaching staffs for you all to enjoy. So without further ado, I give you the Missouri Tigers in 2024. You got to start with the most important position on the field offensively. That is the quarterback room. And might I just say, this is an offense that was really, really good last season, and for good reason. There were a lot of very talented players on this offense, whom I will mention all of here, some coming back, some leaving. Those Tiger fans out there probably can already see and pick out those names on screen. But starting out with the quarterback position, you do lose Jake Garcia and Gabari Johnson through the transfer portal. No big deal. You have Brady Cook. He was an electric quarterback for this team last year. 3,317 yards with 66% completion percentage. His touchdown number is going to seem low, but it's actually what he had in 21 touchdowns with 6 interceptions last season. You do also return Sam Horn, who was that primary backup last season. Drew Pine and Harold Blood Jr. coming through the portal, but none of those 3 names matter unless Brady Cook happens to come down with some sort of injury. Brady Cook is a very, very good player. He's a very good quarterback, and I expect an uptick in possibly yards. 3,300 is a pretty steep number, but Brady Cook has the wide receiver room to be able to get back to it. But I expect an uptick in touchdown production from Brady Cook this season. That should be the expectation for him coming back to this Missouri Tiger team in 2024. Cody Schrader has gone to the NFL. He was a huge part of this offense last season. 1,627 yards with 14 touchdowns last season, was the team's leading rusher. Your second leading rusher, by the way, was Brady Cook. Did have 8 rushing touchdowns on the ground there. But Schrader could also catch passes out of the backfield. 22 times he did it for 191 yards. Very versatile player for this offensive side. He will be missed dearly by this Missouri Tigers team, as well as Nathaniel Pete, who was your third leading rusher last year. 317 yards, 3 touchdowns. Does move on through the NFL as well. So what do you do when you lose a 1,600-yard rusher in Cody Schrader? Well, you dive on into the transfer portal and you pull out a 1,300-yard rusher from Georgia State. Marcus Carroll, in 274 carries, had 1,350 yards and 13 touchdowns last season. And, well, what do you do to go replace Nathaniel Pete? You dive into the transfer portal, back into the Sun Belt bag, and you take Nate Noel from Appalachian State, who had 173 carries, 834 yards, and 5 touchdowns for the Mountaineers last season. This is going to be an electric 1-2 running back punch in this room. While while you could argue and sit here all day on whether Schrader and Pete are a better duo than Carroll and Noel, the numbers do not lie, and the production that both of those guys had at their former schools was very, very good at the very least. Carroll will be that lead back with Nate Noel backing him up. that's going to be a really good running back room for Missouri in 2024. Wide receiver room doesn't lose much. Dennis Jackson and Chance Lepper were some depth pieces. Pretty much everyone, in fact, I do think everyone in this wide receiver room does come back this season. Luther Burden III is one of, if not the most electric wide receivers in college football. He is very, very good. Theo Weiss Jr. was right behind him in terms of receiving yards. Mookie Cooper, Marquise Johnson, and Mekhi Miller, all of them come back to this wide receiver room this year. Burden had 1,212 yards with 9 touchdowns last year. Weiss 682, 6 yards. Cooper had 447 yards. Johnson 383 with 3 scores. Miller 148 and 1. And you get a freshman in Courtney Crutchfield that probably may not see a ton of playing time just with how talented this wide receiver room is, but is a high notable, or I'd say a high blue chip and notable freshman there for the Missouri Tigers. Tight end room doesn't lose much either. A couple depth pieces in Wisner and Horstkamp. So Brett Norfleet, the lead tight end last year, does come back, and Tyler Stevens as well. And on the offensive line, while you lose Javon Foster and a guy to the transfer portal as well, Armand Membo, Cameron Johnson, Logan Reichart, and Connor Tolleson all come back, as well as Caden Green and Javen Richardson come in through the transfer portal. I'll keep this very, very short. Brady Cook is going to see an uptick in touchdown numbers. This wide receiver room is going to be fantastic. Carroll and Noel as a 1-2 punch are going to be fantastic. And this Missouri offense, under offensive coordinator Kirby Moore, is going to absolutely explode. They are going to set the college football offensive scene on fire. They will be one of, if not the best offenses in the nation in 2024. Mark my words. This is an uber talented offensive team led by Cook and this wide receiver room. This is just an offense that is must-see TV in 2024. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball now for the Missouri Tigers. It was definitely a struggle early on to get this defense going. But once defensive coordinator Blake Baker and this team found their footing, they ended up proving themselves to be one of the better units the SEC had defensively last season. But this is a side that does lose that defensive coordinator. Blake Baker is off to coach the same position he did at Missouri over with the LSU Tigers. So another Tiger in the SEC gets Blake Baker. Corey Batoon will be that defensive coordinator for 2024, and his grouping loses a lot of talented players. Darius Robinson, the stats will tell you he was the best pass rusher on this team last season. Off the edge, 8.5 sacks, 43 tackles that led the team last season. Niles Gaddy's another guy that leaves through the NFL. Josh Landry, Realist George Jr., and Jaden Jernigan all gone via graduation. So the defensive line looks like this. Johnny Walker Jr., who had 43 tackles and 5 sacks last season, he comes back. Christian Williams and Joy Moore return, as well as a plethora of defensive line transfers. Zion Young comes over from Michigan State. Sterling Webb comes over from New Mexico State. Chris McClellan comes over from Florida. And Eddie Kelly comes over from Georgia Tech. And you have one of the highest recruits in the nation, according to 24/7 Sports, in the class of 2024 in Williams Waneri, that it will be coming in, was the 6th overall player, number 1 player out of the state of Missouri, 2nd-rated edge rusher in the recruiting class. He should play big minutes for the Tigers defensive line in 2024. Linebacker room does lose some really good pieces here as well. Tyron Hopper was one of the leading tacklers of this team last season, 55 tackles and 3 sacks last season, as well as 3 pass defended. And Chad Bailey, a very good linebacker in his own right, had 17 tackles for him last season. Chuck Hicks and Tristan Newton do come back to this linebacker room. 2 top 5 tacklers from last season combined for over 100 tackles, 104 to be exact. But again, a plethora of transfers come into this linebacker room. Off the edge is going to be Darius Smith. I'd like to put him as a linebacker position transfer just because I think he'll play more of a true linebacker when he's with Missouri, but he could be a defensive line transfer there as well. Jeremiah Beasley comes over from Michigan. Corey Flagg comes over from Miami. And then a guy that's not even on here is Khalil Jacobs. He comes over from South Alabama. Now, obviously, Flagg, Smith, and Beasley will get more playing time than him, but still, you replenish what you lost through the transfer portal, which is exactly what it's intended for. The cornerback and safety room does lose some really high-end talent as well. Ennis Rakestraw is going to be gone here out of the cornerback room, 35 tackles and 4 passes defended. My apologies, but you want to talk about passes defended. Chris Abrams-Drain was one of the best in the business in the SEC. 12 passes defended, 4 interceptions, 51 tackles. Both of those guys will now be serving professional football teams on Sunday, as will Jalen Carly, the leading tackler of the team last year with 64 of them, 4 passes defended and 2 picks, has found a new home in the NFL. So the defensive back room, it's going to look like this. Drayden Norwood is that lead returning corner, 20 tackles, 3 passes defended last year for him. Marcus Clark is also coming back, as well as Shamar McNeil, with Toriano Pride Jr. entering through the transfer portal via the Clemson Tigers. Joseph Charleston, Dalen Carnell, Trevez Johnson, Sidney Williams, and Marvin Burks Jr. all return in the safety position. Charleston, the second leading tackler of the team last season with 4 tackles, or not 4 tackles, my apologies. That's 4 passes defended, 60 tackles, looking at the wrong column there. Dalen Carnell had 7 passes defended last year. That was second on the team, again, only behind Chris Abrams-Drain, who has gone to the NFL. So, very good defensive backroom, and kickers are people too. Let's show them some love. Harrison Mevis, a world-class kicker, has gone to the NFL. Riley Williams is off through the transfer portal. So it's up to Luke Bauer, a returner, and Orion Phillips, a transfer, to battle out for the punting duties, while it should be Blake Craig taking over for Harrison Mevis, which is not going to be an easy task for Duke, considering how just heroized Mevis is in Columbia. So when you talk about this defense, yes, it loses a lot of high-end talent, but it does what it was supposed to do. Replenish talent through the transfer portal. There are a lot of new pieces, especially on that defensive front 7. Going to be very interested to see how everything fits in with this Missouri defense. New scheme, new defensive coordinator, some brand new players, especially up front, with a few in that defensive back room. But that defensive front 7, I'm really, really keen on watching. The pass rush was good last year. I think it'll be good again this year. This should be a defense that stays maybe fairly consistent with its numbers last season. We'll see what the Missouri defense has in store for us in 2024. But right now, we got to take a look at their schedule. Any game that is underlined is going to be a home game, while any game in italics is a road game. Guys, that's that slanted text. Any game in green is a game that I think the Tigers are going to win easily. Any game in yellow is a game that, okay, 50-50 sort of toss-up game, or maybe it's a game that could give Missouri a scare, possible upset game, but the Tigers still win. And, of course, red is a loss. I am not going to talk much about these first 4 games. They are all at home, and I think Missouri should win all of them. In fact, they are all going to be highlighted in green. Let's go through them. Murray State is an FCS-level team. That's going to be played on a Thursday. Missouri should roll over them to open the season 1-0. Buffalo was not a good team out of the Mid-American Conference last season, and I don't know how much better it gets for the Bulls in 2024. I should say the Tigers will be beating the Buffaloes in Week 2. Then you go ahead and you get your home game against Boston College here. Now, don't count Boston College completely out. I do not think that this is going to be that easy, prototypical Power 4 mainstay and top dog versus a Power 4 team that really is going to have trouble making a bowl game. I don't see that this way at all. I think Boston College is going to be a solid team in 2024. I think they're going to be able to contend with Missouri a little bit here, but the Tigers, especially offensively, are way too talented. They will pull away from Boston College, and they will win that one by at least 2 scores before they enter true, I shouldn't say true SEC play. Wait for the second half of the schedule. They still have 1 non-conference game left, but regardless, they enter SEC play with Vanderbilt. Basically an SEC warm-up game there. They will be able to beat the Vanderbilt Commodores in Week 4. Before you go on the road, you play the Texas A&M Aggies, and this is going to be a really, really tough one for the Missouri Tigers. But as my slide has already given away here, I think the Tigers go on the road and win this one, albeit a very, very close game. Mike Elko comes in to be that head coach of Texas A&M in 2024, and as long as that quarterback whose name is escaping my mind right now, apologies 10,000 times over, as long as he is able to take that next step in his development, there are too many weapons here for Texas A&M for them to be counted out of a game like this. Missouri, you could argue, is definitely the more talented team, and I think especially offensively, the Tigers will be too much for this Aggie defense to handle. The Aggie defense lost some good plays, some good players through the transfer portal. And I think having that extra week to prepare for this tough road environment is going to lead to success for the Missouri Tigers. I have them winning that game, staying undefeated with a big road win against the Texas A&M Aggies, which is going to spark some momentum here. They're obviously easily going to be able to beat UMass on the road before you come back home and face an Auburn Tigers team that I think is going to be, well, before I tell you what I think, I'm kind of telling you what I think here, but Auburn is going to be one of those teams this year that they're either going to be a lot better than people say they are, or they're definitely going to be a team that disappoints. Auburn over the past couple of years has gotten some really good hype. Hugh Freeze has this team moving in the right direction. If this game were in Jordan-Hare Stadium, I might consider putting this as the first loss for the Missouri Tigers, but I won't be doing that yet. The Auburn Tigers will lose to the Missouri Tigers. Again, too much talent offensively for this Missouri Tiger team. Brady Cook, Luther Burden, they're going to have a field day here. And again, by this point, the Tigers are picking up some momentum. They are starting to roll we know they're going to roll offensively. They're too good and too talented of an offensive team. By this point, they're going to be able to start to be rolling defensively. They're going to have some nice schemes, some nice play sets figured out, and they're going to take that into the game against Auburn, being able to win that game. But the first loss of the Missouri Tigers season does come here. I do think they go on the road. They're in Bryant-Denny Stadium, and they do lose that game to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama may very well be taking a step back from where they have been under Nick Saban during his tenure. But if you are going to count out Kalen DeBoer for even 1 second, you are absolutely ridiculous. Kalen DeBoer has been a winner everywhere he has been, and that is going to continue here in Tuscaloosa. He's got a great roster, a good quarterback in Jalen Milroe, but albeit that young secondary is going to give Alabama some trouble in being able to pull out this win. The Missouri Tigers are going to be able to exploit that, but I think Jalen Milroe makes one too many plays with his legs and with his arm. Alabama's got a lot of talented pieces offensively. The defense comes up with the one play they need to turn the tide, and the Tide, you see what I did there? The Tide turned the tide late in that game, and they beat the Missouri Tigers, handing Missouri their first loss of the season. You got 4 games left here, and, well, I'll just go ahead and give you a spoiler right now. I see a second loss for Missouri somewhere on this schedule. Whether it's a game I've already gone through to A&M or Auburn, I think the next most likely one is to the Oklahoma Sooners here, and that is exactly what I have it happening. First year for Oklahoma in the SEC, and I think they win at least one game that coming into that week, they're probably, quote, not supposed to win. And I see that being this game right here. The reason I say that, I think Jackson Arnold is a stud at quarterback. I think he's going to be really, really good. Much like Brady Cook at Missouri, has a lot of returning weapons to throw to. That is going to lead to success for this Oklahoma offense. The defense is going to take a step in the right direction with Missouri's defense. Definitely a good possibility that they can take a step backwards. I like Oklahoma in this game to beat the Missouri Tigers, but the Tigers win out the rest of the way. Road game against South Carolina is going to be tricky, but the Gamecocks lose Spencer Rattler, Antoine Wells, and the plethora of other offensive and defensive weapons. The Tigers win that one on the road. The bells in Starkville are going to be loud, and I just don't think that Jeff Lebby really was a fantastic hire in this spot. That, again, is my personal opinion. I don't think that this rebuild is going to go as planned in 2024. I see the Tigers being able to win that one. And then Arkansas, a pretty tricky team to be able to try to figure out. Could give Missouri a fight, but I think they end up getting that one score Missouri does at the end of the game to help them win convincingly, especially since Arkansas loses a lot of weapons, including their quarterback in KJ Jefferson, which leads the Tigers to a 10-2 record. That loss to Bama I have, but again, if it's not to Oklahoma, maybe to Auburn, maybe to A&M. I see a second loss there, but more likely than not, Missouri's going to be a player in the playoff conversation, folks. Put this team down as a team to watch yet again in 2024. The offense is ready to explode, and if the defense can stay constant or even improve, Missouri is a scary, scary team with a fairly favorable schedule. They are going to be a player in the postseason conversation. Let me know what you think about the Tigers in the comment section below. Coming up next, the USC Trojans. You will be next. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.